Namaskar. We always talk about change makers, and when we speak about change makers, we tend to think about people in the system, we tend to think about politicians, but we often ignore people who are among us and who are working and striving to bring some change and to bring about a sustainable difference in the society we live in. Today we have Brinda Adige ma'am. Namaskar ma'am.
Namaskar.
And how I would describe Brinda ma'am is I have seen her always as an activist who is very vocal and a proactive advocate when it comes to issues regarding child and women. Brinda ma'am, today's interview would be just an insight on your life, and also we would want people who watch us through this video to know that how your journey has been and what does an activist think and plan towards striving for a sustainable change in our society. Brinda ma'am, how I know about you is from 1966 to 2020. I just want you to describe your journey. Like what has made Brinda Adige the way she is today?
That's a very profound question, Rahul. 1966 to 2020. Okay, maybe bits and pieces along the way and what I am today. I was born in Bangalore. My father was in the Air Force. I hated school. I didn't like to go to school at all. So I loved to stay with my grandmother. And she was a very strict woman, but she was okay if I did not go. Now, at one point, my father got mad and he said, this girl is 8 years old, hasn't gone to school. We take her with him. So my father was posted in Chandigarh, and that's where I went. So I get admitted in a school along with my another sister because my father said, go into a convent school, ye, wo, and all that. And we continued. But my life was very difficult. I come from South India, right up there to Chandigarh. I don't know any other language other than English and Tamil. And I'm struggling to learn. And every time we had a lot of problems when children used to fight with us. And normally we will find that the boys and girls, mind you, we can't say no, the girls don't fight. Both of them fighting with us simply because of the color of my skin. And every day I used to hear people teasing me with this, Kali Kaloti, Bengan Loti. Of course, like I told you, I didn't know Hindi, so I learned the...
You don't know how to respond to that.
And I learned the song. I thought it was a nice song. Till my mother told me, no, it is not a nice song, but go and tell your teacher that this one is doing these things. So I did go and talk to my teachers. They said, yeah, we will, ask them not to do this. And it continued. But when I came in second standard, one particular day, there were a lot of children running towards the coach. And one boy pulled my hair and started teasing me again with the same song. I got so mad and angry that day that I gave him one tight slap. Both of us were shocked because within seconds his cheek turned red. He was very fair. And I got so scared. Of course, I took some spit and all that and tried to put it on his cheek so that it will go away. But it didn't go, and I also started crying. And the teachers came and they said, next day, bring your father and come. So his father also had to come. My father also had to come. And when my father asked me, why is the principal calling? I said, I don't know. She just wrote in the diary and asked me to call you. I was too scared. As we are walking towards the principal's room, I see my father salute to a man sitting there. And that man happened to be this boy's father. And I said, oh my God, who's he? I asked my father. And he said, oh, that's my officer. Now we go into the principal's room. And the principal then says, what happened, ye wo? And I said that this is what the boy has done. He has been teasing all of us. And yesterday I got very angry, so I hit him. But I didn't know, I would hit him so hard. And she said, no, both of you must apologize. I said, let him apologize because he started all of this. And she said, no, you apologize. I said, no, sister, he should apologize.
But you did wrong too, right?
I did. But my sense of justice at that point of time was, you started it. Both of us are here today because you started something and I reacted to it. Both of us have to apologize to each other because violence in any form cannot be condoned. But I wanted him to say sorry first because he started it. And then the principal said, both of you say sorry to each other together. When I say 1, 2, 3. So when she said 1, 2, 3, we both looked at each other and we said, okay, sorry. But the next day onwards, I found a lot of other children, especially the high school girls and boys, coming to see who is this Brinda. And I was like asking, why are they coming and seeing me? And another friend of mine who was in 7th standard or 8th standard came and told me that now nobody teases another dark person singing that song in school. So when the story went around, it was like, Brinda did this. And now the principal has called everybody and made an announcement in the assembly that this is unacceptable. You don't call names and you don't tease people because of the color of their skin. But a realization that I got on that particular day is if you stand up, if you raise your voice, then especially when it is something so grave, wrong, people listen. And there is a change that happens. So that was my first initial. So if somebody asks me, since when did you start activism?
90s.
So I say, when I was in the 2nd standard. So early 70s.
A lot of people do not know that you were the one behind establishing the first child helpline in India. In this whole journey of activism, you have worked under a lot of organizations with eminent leaders, and then you have started your own. Can you just justify this journey of yours, and can you just elaborate this journey?
Like I was wondering, why is it not possible for a child to just call somebody and say, this is my issue, this is my problem. And it becomes a responsibility of that adult to see what is it that this child requires and to garner the support of all of that for this child, rather than the child going from, I want shelter, I want medicine, I want here, I want to. So at that time, I thought of this helpline. I had heard that there was a helpline in London, and a friend of mine had briefly talked about it. So I kind of made a blueprint with whatever little knowledge, information, and vision that I had. I first went to the Department of Women and Child and spoke to the director. And she said, this is in 1997. She said, this is a great idea. I don't think it will work in India. So I said, oh, okay. Then I went to the Labour Commissioner's office because at that time there was a lot of work being done on child labour from ILO. And the Labour office was very, very intensely involved in this work. So I said, shall we start a helpline where any child can call, and it is important that this child is not going pillar to post. And they said, no, it won't work. This is a nice idea, but it is too far-fetched. As I was walking down Vidhan Sauda, I decided I will go into the police commissioner's office. So I just walked in.
1997.
97. And I gave a chit over there, and Mr. Revan Siddhaya, L. Revan Siddhaya was the police commissioner. And I had, they said that you need to write what is the reason.
Purpose.
Yeah, the purpose, correct. So I said, want to discuss with you about a helpline for children. So he tells me, I was so intrigued because many people come and ask me for help. You want to come and tell me that you want to start a helpline for children. So he invited me inside and he said, tell me about the helpline. I said, it's just a vision, so I will sound out loud. He said, yeah, go ahead. So I began telling him what this helpline would be, what I am envisaging, what I am thinking. So he said, that's good. Why do you want me? I said, because the police is the only organization that has the wherewithal. Police is the only organization that works 24 hours. And is concerned with protection and safety of citizens and children. So we want to start this helpline in the police commissioner's office. So he said, yes, good idea. Come and meet me tomorrow. Do the same explanation to my other officers, and we should be able to start it. So I said, okay, thank you very much. First I thought he was amusing me because I spoke to him for about 20 minutes. And was he convinced? I was telling to myself, is he really convinced? So next day, promptly, I was there at 10:30. And I went in and I said, I have to call this man. I don't know what I'm going to say to him if he says, I don't remember you. But when I walked into his office, I found some 8 senior police officers sitting there. I can't say waiting for me, but they really they were apparently having a meeting, and Mr. Raymond Sidhaya was talking about the conversation that he had with me. And he said, oh, so the lady is here and she will explain to you further. And I was not so prepared to, to talk to all of them about this vision. There's no helpline anywhere in India. 97. Nobody really knows how this helpline functions except for 100.
The only model that you had was a London model.
I knew about the London model, and that was way sophisticated. And the other thing that we know about was 100. And it wasn't a great comparison. So I sat there and I said, this is what I have planned. We need to have the police and civil society organizations working together. We should classify what support, what assistance, what is the kind of resource that every organization will be able to share with us. A child has to call us and we will talk to the child, or a public calls us and we will go to the spot if the need be to rescue the child. And they said, are you sure you can get this thing done? No, it's not worked anywhere. What do you want? I said, I need a telephone. It should be toll free. Nobody should be paying for it. And I need about 4-5 constables. And we will be 4-5 social workers. And then the police commissioner said, we will not pay you any salary. I said, that's fine. But the rest of it is your arrangement. He said, okay. So he got this entire unit set up inside the police commissioner's office, and it was an 8x10 office space. We were next to the police control room. So if at all there was any call that required to be, traced or anything like that, then the control room would be able to do all of it. And we had all of these organizations who came forward to give their support. Strangely, 1995, I had filed a case on 2 organizations and 2 individuals who had usurped a research that I had done for Swedish Save the Children. So there were a lot of organizations who were wary of me. Should we even, she's there, should we even be part of that? Should we not be part of it? But because it was the police commissioner's invite, many of them came, but a couple of them boycotted. And with a very sad face, when I went to the police commissioner, he said, it doesn't matter who have boycotted. Even if we have 3.5 people, we will continue. So that's how Makala Sahaivani actually grew on to be a trailblazer for being the first child protection helpline in collaboration with police and civil society.
Now, ma'am, as an activist, I'll just have a very frank conversation on this. Things are not the same now. Right now, we have a will inside everybody to change the system, because a lot of people are not happy with the system. There are people who are coming out of their comfort zone and working towards it. Some are getting success, some are still learning. How is the future? How do you see? What is the future of activism in India? See, you ask anybody, there will be people who would want to join a course, for a science course or a BA course, but a lot of people would not opt social work course. There'll be people who would want to go into industry, go into movie industry, politician, but they would not want to choose activism. Demise of late Gauri Lankesh ma'am also has been an unfortunate moment, an unfortunate news for all the activists around us. How do you see, what is the future of activism in India?
So my first response would be, each of us can be activists in every sphere, step, phase, level that we want to be. We do not have to be MSWs. We do not have to have a degree. If you are an astronaut, you can still be an activist because you're working within a structure and a system. This structure and system wants to only contain that person, not have that person live their life abundantly without hurting anybody else. The other aspect we also need to tell ourselves is activism is you raise your voice, stand up for what is right and correct. And for that, you need to have complete conviction. If that conviction is not there in you, and you don't have the courage of that conviction to raise your voice, then you cannot stand anywhere. You can't even ask why the bus did not stop in a particular bus stop where he had to stop. So it is important that as human beings, we learn to be comfortable, with ourselves. I also tell college students, especially girls and boys, the younger generation today, who feel that it is important to mold themselves into something what the media is asking them to be. You be yourself and be happy with that. Whether it is your looks, whether it is your color, your height, or whatever. You be happy with yourself and be confident that this is you. You don't have to become anybody else, because then you would not be you and you would be them. The next thing that I want to share is, when we talk of the system, let's be reminded there are people in the system. These people in the system have grown up or have been taught that you must not topple the apple cart. Chalo, let it go. And in a country like India, we will always say, kya kare? It's fate. You were born there poor. You were born here as a laborer. I was born here. But that is not the way it is. It is also how the macro and the micro systems function. There's no need for me to amass wealth. Like this morning I was reading Bill Gates saying that he is from 1 month $3 billion rich. And he says, this is inequality. Tell me how many people will say that. This man has worked hard and he has done all of these kind of things to earn that money. But he has the courage to say, if I am $113 billion rich, this is inequality. And that is why I have to do whatever I have to do. But how many of us are willing to share? Anyway, that is secondary. We come back to the system. We need to ask ourselves, when we talk of being a democrat, a democracy, a country that is a republic, how are we citizens accepting this democracy? Why are we citizens not participating in this democracy? We are still sitting in that old colonial era of enslavement, where we are thinking government will give us some daan. It will dole out some charity. And if the government doesn't give me charity, then the man or woman there is bad. But I never raise my question when they are wrong. We have a very unique system, I think. We have a bureaucracy. You have a politician. The bureaucracy hasn't changed much for the last 100 years. Politicians will come and go every 5-10 years. That is the structure that needs to change.
Are you talking about government and governance?
I'm talking about government first. Because when you talk of a government, you're talking of elected representatives and you're talking of governance by them. But the elected representatives cannot do the governance on their own, no? So they have this set bureaucracy. Now this bureaucracy are also of various levels. So you already made a class differentiation over there. So you have the creamy class and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever is the class over there. That bureaucracy is something the Indian civil service has to change, has to transform, must be reformed.
Now, as an activist, I have a very important question to ask you. A very real life scenario. Delhi rape case happened. Protest across country. Talking about town hall itself, regular protest. After a few days, after a few months, all went silent. Then again, a rape or a molestation case happened. Again, protests happened. All these similar activist faces again on the ground. Again, having those slogans against the government. Again, they go back. Then similar situations keep on happening. Don't you think that activism or the activists out here through these protests or through these tremendous protests are losing their gravity, knowing the fact that these protests are not even able to make some change? The whole point of protesting is that the change happens, right? But if the change is not happening, what is the use of protest again and again on the same issue? And this is not my question. This is the question that people ask. Whenever you ask somebody that there is a protest happening today, do you want to go? People would be like, what happens? Then nothing going to happen through this protest. People who organized it would give the bite to the media, will go back home. They'll have their particular mileage of their particular organization. But what are we there for? We want to raise our voice when some sustainable change happens, and through these protests, nothing is happening. So, don't you think that the method that we are using is a little old?
No. This is the only method. There cannot be any other method, because this is the visible, loud method. And whether it is the government or the powers that be, they are always scared when we come out in numbers on the streets. They do not expect us to come. They want us to feel comfortable and safe in our homes. You pointed out about the Delhi Nirbhaya case. We had thousands, lakhs of people across India. It petered down. But the momentum was kept by a motley group here and there, women's group, yahan pe, group of lawyers. It continued. Otherwise, you think we would have reached these kind of amendments that happened because of that? It wouldn't have happened. The law wouldn't have been amended. But the laws got amended. Now, once the law got amended, the law needs to get executed. Everybody said, don't execute it, because the amendments are very serious. When a complaint is made, for example, a woman makes a complaint to the police station and the police doesn't take the complaint, there is a section now you can register a criminal case on the police officer.
But how many people know that, ma'am?
No. Not only knowing that, what has happened is the police will register a criminal case on the police. Now that is where we have the problem. We don't have a ombudsman that will look into something like this and say register the case on them. So we have to fall back on the courts. But we are now challenged with how the court systems are functioning. How are the functionaries, the judiciary is functioning? How is it that we want to talk about activism everywhere, but we also want judicial activism? Why is it that judges are scared? Why is it that somebody is scared to give you a judgment that is a just judgment? Why would they give you some other judgment, an evasive judgment, a watered down judgment, or even say that, not ample proof? In this age and time, how can you say not ample proof? We have sophisticated technology. We have people who are intelligent, detectives who are there, who can get your circumstantial evidence, put it there together and make it possible for that justice to be given, whether it is substantive justice, or procedural justice. The functionaries are not being pulled up.
Ma'am, my problem over here is not from the activism side. My problem over here is when some things like this happens, especially talking about atrocity against the girls and women of our country, there'll be lakhs of people who would be there on the streets. But how many of them are going to the ground and working towards a better upliftment of these children, working towards better education of these children?
We need to begin this from our schools. Enough of this rote learning. Enough of this learning that I will look at the textbook, write on the board, and you copy it down. No. We need to change and transform our education methodology itself, where we tell children to think critically, where we tell children to engage in conversations, where we tell children that there is nothing like caste that you should be looking at. No class, no color, no gender. Does the government have that guts to do it? Why is my government going around with a British imposed education system? We are 74 years down independence. We have had our Gurukul systems. But don't talk of a Gurukul system from a Vedic point of view where I will teach this. No. You talk science, you talk Bible, you talk Quran, you discuss whatever you have to make this child an educated human being. Where this child can think, the child can analyze, and the child can make decisions and choices which are correct, that does not hurt another human being.
Ma'am, I would like to close this interview by asking you what next is in your plans. Like, I'm not saying that I never asked you how many children you rescued. I never asked you how many big initiatives you were part of and you created change, because I know that you have done, and I do not need to know a lot of details about that. But what next is in the minds of Brinda Adige? Where does she want to take the people who trust her along with her, and what does she want to achieve?
My favorite motto or my favorite sentence is people should become their own first line of defense. I would be happy if 5 years down the line, the group of people that we are working with say, listen, you can shut down Global Concerns India. We don't need you. We can handle ourselves on our own. I think that would be my most happiest day, because then means we have created a lot of leaders. That is what I should do. If Brinda is gone tomorrow, no problem. There are so many other people who are doing better than Brinda, because they learnt not just from her mistakes, not just from her successes, but also from her mistakes. And that is important. I want to tell people the mistakes that I have made, so that you don't make those same mistakes. Successes, people will talk and tell you, I did this, I did that. But I want to tell, don't waste your time making the mistakes I made. Move on and see what other alternatives and options you can find. Because then you will work faster and for more people and not have to suffer like how I suffered.
I believe that each one of us today have an insect of change, an insect which wants right thing to be done around him or her, an insect that which wants a platform to come and experiment the different ideas of sustainable change across our society. Ma'am, I wish you best of luck and thank you for giving us your time. And I would like to tell each one of you that our job in this whole lifetime is to give a platform to that particular insect of social justice, because there are a lot of people who need us, and more than that, there are a lot of people who need to question themselves first and then the system. Thank you.